Hey, welcome to NFT Guild RoundTable number 8. It's middle of September. Voting is concluded. We're waiting on results around Project Catalyst. Happy to have all of you here in the call today. We're continuing our discussion around the NFT verification standard, and we would like to explore an alternative NFT verification model based on public keys, signatures, and hashes. This is NFT Guild, and we have our very own SIP editor, Filip, here, and he is going to be leading our discussion today. Thank you.
Never try to say my last name.
Blagojevic.
Okay.
Blagojevic. Only because you asked, okay?
Cool. Close enough.
All righty. There you go, man.
Thank you, Peter, for the introduction. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Yes, so today we would like to share Sent new Mindflow, and we kind of worked on this. We started discussing and bringing some thoughts about how we can have an NFT verification standard, right? So first we tried to discuss, well, what do we want to achieve? What can we reasonably verify, right? So we said, can we verify that wallet A is the minter and creator of a certain NFT? And yes, we can. Can we verify that person A is the minter and creator of a certain NFT? We cannot do that 100%, but we can go to some lengths and connect it to social media and to go to reasonable amount to say, yes, this is, let's say, the person that minted and created a certain NFT. And the last thing that we talked about is, can we verify that person A produced and loaded a piece of art on a distributed service online? And that is very tough to solve, at least within a CIP or in a standard. We came to the conclusion that some other we think commercial services, something like Giovanni is doing, that would need to include, you know, crawling through IPFS and just doing optical recognition for graphical files. But then, you know, you would have to have another service for audio files and another for PDFs or whatever and ever. So that is out of the scope of this standard, right? So we kind of limited ourselves to saying we want to have some way that a user can fairly certainly verify that their NFT has been created by a certain person or an entity, right? So, okay, we said, cool, we have now our scope. Even in the previous discussion that we had about the royalties, we kind of think that this idea with having a separate token, like we have now the royalty token in CIP27, and having the possibility to sign messages with private keys and confirm them with public keys is a relatively powerful tool that we can use for two different ends. So maybe before I share my screen and we go into the token metadata that we kind of talked about, maybe Sent or Anna Maria and Raresh, maybe you guys want to jump in and say something, expand on it.
No, I think you did great. So nothing to add from me at this point.
Thank you, Sent.
Yeah, nothing from our part so far. So you can proceed with the presentation and we'll jump in if we...
Okay, so I'll share the screen. I am sharing my virtual machine. Can you see the screen? Yeah. Should I zoom in a little bit or something? Yes.
Yeah.
No. Yes.
Please. Yeah.
Looks good.
Looks good.
For the recording, it'll be better if you zoom in because the quality's a little lower.
Appearance. Okay, this is enough, I would say. Okay, so we thought about having a token, like if we have a standard called 721 in case of CIP25, this is like the normal metadata standard for token. We just called this one 789. This is something that we would call identity token. This is just a metadata JSON file that would be appended. That would be the metadata file of a certain NFT that we would create. So this token, this NFT metadata would contain the policy. It would contain the public key of the policy of the policy minting key. So every time when we create a new policy in Cardano, we have to create first a key pair, a pair of one public and one private key, and that pair signifies the policy keys. So if we put the public key here, that is absolutely mandatory for our checkup. Then we have an arbitrary, set of data that can be out there just to identify, a name of the collection, author name. Author name can be, public, first name, last name, or it can be an entity or whatever. We gave an example of a website, Twitter handle, Discord, and whatever else the author deems necessary, right? We always use these examples as a a standard 10K collection of something, but it really doesn't have to be. Doesn't even have to be art. It can be whatever. So we kind of leave these fields up to the user, because cryptographically we don't care about these fields. We just need the public key. So then Sent was kind enough, and he has a tool that maybe he can demonstrate, where we can sign this part of the message. We hash it, and we can sign it with the private key, with the policy private key. Because through all of these conversations, we only detect the policy private key as something that is uniquely identifies the controller, the holder of this NFT policy, right? If that private key is compromised, basically the whole system is compromised. This is like in crypto, if you lose your private key to your wallet, not much we can do. Okay, so presuming that the author, the creator, the original minter has the policy private key, we, outside of this structure, we add the hash of this structure within the metadata, and we add the signature within that metadata. And then we publish this, we mint this as a token, and we publish it as one of the tokens in the policy. Okay, so we have the public crypto tool, and this was just our thoughts that maybe we can go a little bit on later. But the idea is to have the public tool that maybe Sent can show, where you can take the signature, you can take the hash, and you can verify with this public key that the actual private key holder signed this data. So what does that prove to you, right? We now went a little bit. So what does that actually prove to you? It proves that the person that created this token holds the policy and that they entered these fields. Okay, fine. So what, right? That only thing after is that that person entered these fields, and you can go to each one of them and you can ensure yourself with reasonable amount of certainty that actually this is a real person or entity or a group of people. And it is up to the user then to decide, well, okay, I trust this group of people, trust this entity, or I don't. So this is like for a manual way. But the good thing is, when you have this on chain, you can have an automatic way to confirm all this data. You can basically take the metadata, you can parse it, and you can do an automatic check with the crypto tool that, or with your code that confirms that this signature was actually done with the policy private key. It disables tampering, so it kind of uniquely says, okay, well, if I'm the author, actually I did this, and this is my thing. So that was kind of our logic. If I remember correctly, we discussed here, we can even have a tool that creates a random message, encrypts it with the public key, and this is like sort of a, I would say, something like a PGP system. If you really want, let's say you're interacting maybe live with someone who claims that they are the creator of the policy, you can actually test them, and you can take this public key, you can create a random message, sign it, encrypt it, and ask them to decrypt it and tell you the message, and in that way, this can also be automatic. In real time, you can be sure that you are, dealing with the person who holds this private key. We can we would need to require the public display of policy script to verify the pub key hash, right? So maybe Sebastian, if you want to talk about this a little bit, because I'm not sure. Basically, when we create the policy ID of any new policy, it is not this JSON original file is not published on chain, right? This is okay. This is not the policy ID. Something like this is a policy ID, right? This is not published on chain. This is just hashed and created in a transaction. But the policy ID absolutely needs to contain this, at least one. It can contain more than one, but at least one. And this is a key hash. And if a user can publicly display the key hash in that way, we can check that that public key hashes to this, because this is a public key hash. This is not a private key hash. So we can actually confirm that that public key, which is here, that key needs to hash to this, right? So we can even have an additional check for that kind of a system. Okay, then we kind of decided, what if multi-sig? We did not find a good enough solution for that yet. I mean, we can complicate it more, but we still need to discuss this. And for locked policy projects, basically, if you have a project that has a locked policy, we can probably create a transaction that not an NFT that is a part of the policy. We can create a transaction signed again by the policy private key that contains this metadata. Now, it's a little bit, I would say, questionable. We would need to discuss with marketplaces, minting services, and all the other stakeholders how difficult it is to detect these transactions, how difficult should we timestamp them, or things like that. But this is a way for someone who already has a finished, already has a locked policy, and their collection is out, they can, if they use it in a transaction, they can have the same functionality. So I don't know. I feel like I said a lot of things. I don't know if there are questions. Someone wants to add something, reduce something. Please go ahead.
Maybe send if you want, if you're able to do a quick demo of the, I know it's in a rough state, but maybe you can do a quick demo of the tool that you have started to develop, and then we'll take questions and talk more about what are our aims with this, what would be.
Yeah, sure. I can share.
Let me.
Can you see the screen?
Yeah.
This screen with the tool? Thanks.
Yes.
Signed data.
Yeah, signed data. So this is not meant to be a solution for doing the verification, but it is meant to be a way for us to demonstrate how the signing of the data is done and how the verification is done afterwards. This form is a web solution, and you should never upload any Cardano mainnet keys to this solution. This is a test page only. So the keys that I'm uploading now is from the preview testnet. Could you be so kind to send me the metadata?
Yeah, you want me to send it?
Yes, so that we have somewhat real metadata.
Okay. I'll send it in the chat. So this is horribly formatted and all of that, but just for the sake of testing.
Hopefully, yes. But... So, yeah, we don't mind all of these stuff, but it shows. So this is the data that we want to sign. And then we sign it using a private key, which is, in this case, it has been created using the node CLI. So this gives us the public key, the hash of data, and the signature. We can then, using a verification one, simply add this data into the verification form. So the public key, no, we don't need that. The hash. Signature. So this, the receiving party doesn't know the secret key, of course, only the public key. So then you can use that to see if this is actually being signed by the owner of this key. And then we can see that it was indeed signed by the owner of AS payment key. If we do it again using another public key, for example, Filip's public key that I have, the verification fails. So in that way, we have cryptographic ways of verifying the data, that it has been signed by who says they have signed it. So this is, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt. Just to very, high level, we were thinking about, well, how do I attack this system, right? If I create a new transaction with some changed links or something, links to a spoofed website or something, different, I would never be able to create the signature with a different private key, and everybody would be able to simply detect that this is a fake. So that's the point, right? The point is that we allow the authors to dictate, well, okay, this is my data and this is it. And even if they want to go further, they can embed on their own websites or something some additional checks if that's what they want.
Correct. And one slight change to the data creates a completely different hash. So it breaks with only one different letter. Yes. So this the signing part will be done by wallets, so that you don't share your secret key or your signing key with anyone. And we look forward to creating a tool for doing this verification part, which is going to be a decentralized tool that can be run by anyone. So this is the beginning of this tool, at least, but it will not be this web form. It will be something else using the same functionality. So, yeah.
It's good that you touched on that, Sen, because I think this is the core of this whole initiative, the fact that we want to, of course, primarily for most users, this verification method will be ideally incorporated into marketplaces, so they won't have to deal with it. But at the same time, it will decentralize the verification from marketplaces, right? Marketplaces will no longer be the ultimate authority for truth for verification on Cardano. If this tool is implemented, if it's accessible, if it's run by, especially if it's run by multiple parties, because we plan to, as Sent said, create an open source tool, and ideally it will be run maybe with multiple UIs by different community members or parties on Cardano, and so that those more, I don't know, should I say, advanced users will be able to do the verification on their own and not rely strictly on what marketplaces say, because currently the verification on actually we've done one today, so we know, but the verification is done manually by marketplaces. So we want to eliminate this process, both to help marketplaces, because if we envision a future where, I don't know, hundreds of collections are released a day, it's no longer feasible to do the verification process manually, but also, and I would argue more importantly, to decentralize that authority over the verification truth from marketplaces. So yeah, that's the philosophical guidance behind this initiative.
Yes, and if widely accepted, this standard, this open source code for verification can be built into so much more. You can have a few services simply for verification that open an API to marketplaces, and then they can query the chain multiple times, or they can do whatever is necessary. You can have 1 or 10 of these services, it depends. It opens up a whole new thing, but only if widely accepted. So maybe today I think we would like to hear opinions. Does this make sense? to you guys? Do you think that this is useful? Do you think not? Do you think there are better ways, simpler ways, whatever is on your mind?
Can I ask a question?
Of course.
Great. Okay. How does this relate to the CIP 66 draft, which tries to bind the digital identity to an NFT?
CIP, well, Patrick is here if he wants to talk about CIP 66, but my understanding about 66 is it uses a verification through the IDs. I think we have a little bit of touch because Patrick also creates, at least the standard is trying to create another token with the data of the DID and connect it to the policy. So at least in that respect, from what I see in kind of the CIP spaces, we're trying to create different token standards where we create, well, this is an identity token, this is this token, this is that token. So Patrick has a different way with DIDs to do it, but it's definitely complementary. It's not, you know, it's not competitive with anything. It's just, we do not require a DID. He requires a DID. Some users will want a DID, some users maybe don't want a DID. So we just thought about it in that way.
Yes, I don't think it's really, it's not really interfering in any way.
Okay.
Just two separate use cases.
All right, just wanted to understand that. And then there's one possible attack vector. It's probably the other way around. So using this key and signatures used with a minting policy, that's almost the same approach with CIP 26 off-chain metadata signing. One thing we experienced is actually I can go and mint a very inappropriate NFT with super offensive content picture probably, and then using your standard, sign this metadata which relates to a website that probably is owned by myself. So I can mint something super offensive and put in the metadata the website of NMaker, for example. Then it's super hard for
NMaker to prove that it's not that website,
that they did not mint this NFT.
That is true. That is
we
true.
had this in the off-chain registry, and it was kind of hard to get around this because actually we weren't able to, or it was related to ring riders, and they weren't able to prove that this other native asset hasn't been minted by them. Weird, but
we did not consider this. I have to admit, in this way.
yeah, I'm not sure if there is a feasible solution for it and if this must be covered by the standard, but probably it's worth thinking about this scenario.
That's true.
And the
I'll write
last
it down
remark,
for
you mentioned that the policy script does not get included with the minting operation.
Yes,
and only the
the
hash is
source
included.
code, the source code of the policy script is not included in on-chain data.
It's available on chain.
Policy script source code JSON file.
Right, there is a scrolls reducer from Smog, so PoolPM, which fetches all the policy scripts from the minting operations and dumps them in a database. And you need this because you need this to validate if a minting operation is allowed or is no longer allowed. And then you could use this to fetch the public keys and do this validation also.
Okay, we discussed this. We thought, maybe wrongly, that PoolPM requires manual entrance, manual entry of the policy script inside there.
Okay, I can see it also on CardanoScan if I look up an arbitrary minting operation.
You can? Okay. I did not know about that. Good. Thank you for.
Maybe
So
they're using
scrolls,
something else, but yeah, I know
if
that
it's on
PoolPM
chain, okay, then it can be done. I just didn't
It's
think
easier.
that was on chain, the source file.
Yeah, it would be very good if it was on chain. Then we don't have to include that in any of the metadata that is published. So that's great news.
Patrick, do you know anything about this? Do you know how we can get the raw policy file from on-chain?
Sorry, I didn't listen at all to, to what you want. To be
No,
honest.
we thought that when you mint, you know, when you create a new policy and you mint tokens from that policy, that you can query from the blockchain the source code of the policy. Right, not
yeah,
the
you
hash.
you can do so. You can do so. Cardano Scan is actually doing that. I don't know how to do it, but I know that it's possible.
But the source code, like, no, I'm not saying this is
you
a
mean
policy.
the policy script or what?
Yes, the policy script. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, you can see in the link that Sebastian just posted, I think, even there, if you click on the little icon under policy ID, then you can
view
see the script. Yeah. So it is possible. I think it gets saved at the first minting transaction or something like that. I spoke with the Cardano Scan people once about it, but I forgot it was months ago.
Okay, well, that I did not know. That helps us quite a lot.
We assume that it's not on chain because we found some tokens
yes,
on Pool PM that don't have it, and we remember that even in our case, for like 2 months before we manually added it, there was on Pool PM there was a question mark next to the policy script or the openness or status of the policy.
Yeah, but so we also had an API endpoint for Smaug, where we submitted it ourselves manually, basically. So every time an NFT gets minted, we send it to him so that he can entry it. But a few weeks ago or months ago, at this point probably, he told me that we can now deprecate this because he found the solution to fill it up himself. And I guess he's doing the same thing that the others are doing. You could also, in theory, what do you call it? Like calculate it if you want to, for most policy scripts, not for the complex ones, but for the time-bound ones, of course.
What do you mean calculate it? How, from the hash?
Yeah, you can. I mean,
brute force
it depends. You can brute force it. Yeah.
Okay.
We did that a few times in the past, so yeah, you can brute force them, but it doesn't work for, of course, more complex policy scripts that are hopefully getting in soon.
Okay,
but
thank you. Well,
I don't know. I would talk to Cardano Scan. They know how to do it. So.
Yes, but I mean, if they know how to do it, there is a way. Probably, if Sebastian mentioned scrolls, Aura. Okay, so Carp or scrolls probably allow. Probably DB Sync allows it, but it's maybe a little bit more difficult. So as long as it's on chain, it's good. Thank you for the info. Any more questions, comments?
Since we have two representatives of minting services, both Patrick and Cash, what are your thoughts on the complexity of this solution towards your clients? So
I mean, from my perspective, considering we do strictly multi-sig minting, it's going to be a bit of a challenge, I think.
So, Cash, if you do multi-sig minting, right? Do you do multi-sig minting on the level of the NFT policy script, or you do multi-sig minting somehow differently?
Yeah, no, we do it through the policy script.
Okay, so you have more than one key, right? Because that's also something we discussed. Let me share my screen again.
We looked at one of the NFTs minted by Anvil Cash, and we knew that it was multi-sig, but we only found one signature in the script, and that's why we assumed that maybe you were doing it a bit different. Or
which one was it?
I think it was an older one.
The Natalie.
Yeah, the
Natalie
Shaw one, I think.
Okay. Yeah, not too long ago. Yeah, I'd like to get to Carrie in here, our lead dev. Obviously, I think he could speak to it a lot better than I can. I mean, our process has changed a bit, you know, over time as we've evolved. And honestly, since we started, I haven't been too deep into the coding side of it. So it would be much better for him to talk about it, or Patrick, probably, honestly.
Patrick, do you do multi-segmenting?
Yes, we do use multi-segmenting, and we also use multiple keys for that. But we also do non-multi-segmenting. We offer many different arts of minting at this point. But
Sure.
Basically, I'm always a big fan of keeping solutions as simple as possible. Because I like, and this topic I've been pushing for a long time, even with the royalty standard. That's why the royalty standard is so simple right now, because the whole idea was that everyone can basically follow it, so that we can have more people coming in and more people actually building minting services or building marketplaces and stuff like that. The problem that I see is that if we make solutions too complicated, then we will just create monopolies, because of course it won't be a problem for NMaker to implement this. It also won't be a problem for Ada Anvil to implement this. And if we have like an open source tool, you know, it will not be a problem for the small minters maybe to implement it. But the more of these standards that we have and that we stack upon each other, the worse it gets. And I'm already extremely worried with the royalties, because the royalties at the moment are extremely centralized with JPEG Store, because they don't follow the standard. And if any new marketplace comes in, you know, people are not going to get their royalties, because JPEG Store doesn't even mint royalty tokens in their minting tool. So yeah, the least complicated standard that we can get with the most flexibility, that's my favorite. And that's like, I still like the royalty token, because it is very flexible, because you can have only one address in there, yes, but this address could be a smart contract, and you just have to send out the token with an empty datum, and then you can use the smart contract to split the royalties and stuff like that. And you can even have centralized solutions that split the royalties and stuff like that. So I don't think it's that bad, because it's very easy and it also provides a lot of flexibility. The problem is that no one has built tooling around it, because like we once published an open source smart contract for splitting royalties, but no one is using it. And you know, if we had like this sort of tooling that you can put behind the royalties, then it would solve most of the problems, I think.
Yeah, okay, that's about the royalties. We're actually drafting the royalty, the new upgrade.
Yeah, I didn't mean I just meant in general that I want the least complex standards. That's
sure, but me too. I just we were thinking about, let's say we have the policy script like this, but instead of one key hash, we have 3 or 4. Right, that's how your multi-sig policy scripts look like, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So if we go to our standard here, instead of one public key, I would have to have an array of public keys, right? And instead of one signature, I would have to have an array of signatures if I want to enable all of those keys to verify. Or if you can suggest a simpler solution, I am listening, because we can also always take the first key, but then I don't know if you guys do multi-sig. I don't know how you handle your keys. Maybe that shouldn't even be said publicly. There are reasons not to say that publicly, but you know, if I'm a minting service and I always hold one of the minting keys, then if I allow the user to sign and verify something with another, that has its own repercussions, right? So that we would need a little bit more input how to deal with multi-sig.
Sorry, I'm trying to get to Carrie in here now. I think he can speak to this pretty well from our process standpoint.
yeah, I mean, multi-sig is kind of implemented. There's also two different types of multi-sig. You can have all and any. And I don't know, maybe I should explore a little bit now. I didn't know that I can see the scripts actually. Now I do. Thank you. So I can maybe find some projects and look at scripts, look how scripts are made. Is it used with all or with any? And like Patrick said, we can add more and more things and add more, ethologies and software, logic behind it. We would like, I think everybody in the guild would like to create whatever standard there is, at least a part of the, doesn't have to be a part of the standard, but we would like to create some sort of an open source tool that best describes that functionality. Writing it down on paper is one thing, but when you have the software, software works as it works and everybody can reuse it. Okay, front end and other things everybody can develop, but that would be and if we make it more and more complicated, like Patrick said, the software development will take longer. There will be more bugs. There will be more headaches, etc., etc. So if someone can just, straightforward tell me, hey, look, you can use the first key for signing, that's it, or you can use the second one or fifth one, or you can use any of them, or things like that, right?
Yeah, I talked to him briefly. He said that we have one encryption key to encrypt it and then one key to sign.
So that is okay. Is that a key pair or
it's
How about-
not, it's
okay.
technically one, but it starts as an encrypted key.
if it's one in the NFT policy script,
That's it. Yep.
fine, one, right? Patrick, I'm guessing you have more than one in some cases in the policy.
In some cases, we have more than one. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
What
think
do you
I think in
suggest
all
here?
cases.
In all cases.
I don't know, Philip.
Thank you, Patrick, for your help. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. I'm also a little bit unconcentrated because there's like 10 things going on at once. But sorry for that.
That's fine. Thank you for joining us. Okay, so for now, this is where we are. We kind of thought about this, made a tool. To get back on the philosophical level, we can actually never ensure with 100% programmatically that everything is okay, right? And we always have to rely on that one private key that should be owned by, the authors, the creators. Without that, another solution is on the path of what Patrick is doing with CIP66, with DIDs, with some sort of a centralized entity that confirms the identity of the person or a group behind that token. That's it for now. I think these multi-sig wallets need to be resolved. We will keep working on that, and we would keep people updated.
One remark for CIP 26, which is not really the gold standard for everything, but with regards to multiple signatures, they have the rule, or we have the rule, that as long as one of the signatures is valid, the metadata set is considered as being valid. So if there are 10 signatures in there, only one of them has to be valid.
I agree, but let's say if a minting service keeps one wallet.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
Just wanted to mention that.
Thank you. Yes, yeah, makes sense. Also, 26 is for off-chain metadata. Are there noticeable use cases of this? I have to say I did not go deep into this CIP.
Daedalus consumes it. You're Roy. But this standardization situation is not clear, because if you mint a native asset, usually nowadays, you can register metadata via CRP26 and the Cardano Foundation owned registry. So with your website, logo, decimals information, stuff like that. And you verify it by using the minting keys. That's almost the same approach as you use. But then there's also an on-chain metadata standard, which is in draft status CIP-wise. I guess it was proposed by Muesli or Sunday. I'm not sure.
On-chain metadata, the 25, you mean? No,
Yeah, almost 25. It's a different
27.
label. And then also to be displayed on PoolPM in the correct way.
Yeah.
Some people just mint one token with 25 standard. So situation is scrappy. That's actually also one reason why I joined this meeting, and I'm currently reaching out to different parties to align on this to find a better way for native asset metadata.
Yeah, I think the problem where we're at right now is there is a lot of projects already out there. There is a lot of NFTs, so you kind of have to support all of them. You have to. You can't just, you know, ignore everything before and say, oh, well, okay, from now on we're doing it this way. I don't know how this is going to be solved. We're trying to talk. I know we're not the only group talking. I see other people, you know, having conversations. I see other, you know, groups, guilds, roundtables, you know, whatever's. So I just would like to hear others' opinion. But this generic approach that we have is like creating a token standard, some kind of a token standard, or some sort of a standardized on-chain transaction. That's the only way that we can do it on-chain, right? Off-chain, we can do whatever we want, right? But on-chain, that's in my technical mind, I don't see another way. And then combine that with inline datums after Vasil, and okay, we have a more powerful tool. We feel currently that this is a bit early for that, but yeah.
We see that David Tikuri from Ada Anvil has joined the room, and maybe you can ask the question about multi-sig again, Filip.
Hi, David. Yes, so we were discussing about you know, having a different policy scripts, and then Cash said that you're using multi-sig. So I was asking, are you using multi-sig in the policy script level, or you're using some sort of another way of having multi-signature?
We are using the term multi-sig more as a way to ask the user to sign both the transaction and the policy script to sign the transaction, not in a way that we are asking multiple signature from the policy script. I don't know if that's clear.
Yes, but if we want to make it ultra clear, let me just share my screen. If I'm thinking the same thing, so let's go. Not here. No. No. Here. Okay, so if this is our witnessing, this is a transaction builder of one NFT or FT, right? So we have two witnesses, and we need to have minimum two witnesses, right, David? So we have one witness that is the private, that's the wallet of the guy who mints it, and then another witness is the policy private key.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? But this key is in the policy key hash, right?
Yeah.
Only one, only this. Because theoretically, because what I considered multi-sig was like this kind of setting, you know. But we don't have that. Yeah, but there are, this is possible, and then it kind of it's difficult for us to to deal with that. But okay, thank you, David, for the
I saw some people using multiple keys from for a policy, but in my opinion, if you use like any or a policy script like that, I'm not sure if it's a good practice to just generate more keys that can sign the policy script rather than just having one key to protect and hide. But yeah,
it's possible. So I just, I wanted to cover the cases. Okay, so this is from my part. I am done. Maybe Ana Maria, Raresh, or Sent, if you guys want to take over.
and if I can add, did you try using cardinal serialization library to make the transaction rather than command line stuff?
No, in this specific case, no, I didn't. But David, if you have some examples of use of CLI and you're willing to share them, I will gladly accept it.
Yeah, but I can share.
Those are easy to find, that's very easy to find and simple. So it's not a problem, right?
I was trying to use the CLI at first, and it was really hard to integrate it on a web application.
Yes.
So I switched our script to cardinal serialization library, and it's much more easier to use it directly in JavaScript, sign the transaction on the back end, and you basically just sign the transaction, send it to the front end, you pre-sign it on the back end, so the user cannot edit the transaction, and the user just have to sign it and return it to the backend, and it's pretty easy like that.
Do you have the? That's what I'm doing now for another project. So yeah, I would appreciate your help with that, but it's another subject. Just if you tried to, have you ever tried to interact like that with a smart contract? Can serialization lib? I mean, it can, but how can it build a transaction that includes custom datum and custom redeemer?
Yeah, we use it on I don't know if you know the project Yumi Universe, but we did all their staking smart contract using all cardinal serialization library. It's working pretty well. It's a bit hard to calculate the fees, but you can use some tools like Blockfrost to estimate the cost and build a transaction directly like that.
Sure. Do you maybe have some examples or something that's open source?
To be honest, I didn't found any documentation at first. I was doing the Plutus Pioneer with Lars, and it was really hard to find some stuff, and yeah, so I did it like by trying and failing and trying and failing until it works.
Thank you, David. Thank you. That makes me feel good. Yes.
Before we wrap up for today, I would like to ask Sebastian, because he mentioned the evolution of the metadata standard. What do you think is will be the role of SIP 67 and 68? Because I know those have moved forward now in the SIP reviewing process.
To be honest, I cannot tell. I have to align with the community about those kind of things and the different stakeholders. In fact, CIP 26 at the moment is only partially feasible or a good solution. And if I say partially, I mean it's a centralized solution as it has been implemented right now. Yeah, but that's probably the only statement I can give you right now, because I still need this community outreach, alignment, whatever. That's okay to say.
Thank you for your answer. And it was really nice having you today. Thank you, Filip, for your presentation. Thanks, Sent. And thanks to all who participated. This has been the NFT Guild RoundTable number 8. We should have the recording up soon. And have a nice rest of your week.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Till next time.